Paradise Lost, a modern English translation. By John Milton. Preface from Harmony. Dear listeners, in this book I have retold the legend of Paradise Lost in a modern English method, retaining, however, as far as possible, the expressions and metaphors of John Milton in his original writing. Chapter 4. Invocation. Satan, now close to Eden and near the place where he must attempt the bold plan he took on alone against God and man, falls into many doubts and passions, fear, envy, and despair. But eventually he confirms himself in evil. He journeys on to paradise, whose outward appearance and location are described. He jumps over the boundaries and sits, in the shape of a cormorant, on the tree of life, the highest tree in the garden, to look around. The garden is described, Satan's first sight of Adam and Eve, his amazement at their excellent form and happy state, but with a resolution to cause their fall. He overhears their conversation, and from that, he learns that the tree of knowledge is forbidden for them to eat from under penalty of death, and he intends to base his temptation on seducing them to disobey. He then leaves them for a while to learn more about their state by other means. Meanwhile, Uriel, descending on a sunbeam, warns Gabriel, who was in charge of the gate of paradise, that an evil spirit had escaped the deep and passed by his sphere at noon, disguised as a good angel, down to paradise, later discovered by his furious gestures on the mountain. Gabriel promises to find him before morning. As night falls, Adam and Eve discuss going to rest. Their bower is described, their evening worship. Gabriel, drawing out his night watch bands to walk around paradise, appoints 2 strong angels to Adam's bower, in case the evil spirit should be there doing some harm to Adam or Eve while they sleep. There they find him at Eve's ear, tempting her in a dream, and bring him, though unwilling, to Gabriel. He scornfully answers Gabriel's questions, prepares to resist, but, hindered by a sign from heaven, flies out of paradise. End invocation. Oh, for that warning voice, the one who saw the apocalypse heard crying loudly in heaven, when the dragon, beaten a second time, came furiously down to take revenge on men. Woe to the inhabitants of earth! So now, while there was still time, our first parents could have been warned about their secret foes coming, and escaped, perhaps so escaped, his deadly trap. For now Satan, now first inflamed with rage, came down, the tempter before the accuser of mankind, to take out on innocent, frail man his loss from that first battle, and his flight to hell. Yet not rejoicing in his speed, though bold far off and fearless, nor with reason to boast, begins his dreadful attempt, which, close to birth now rolling, boils in his tumultuous chest, and like a devilish engine recoils back on himself. Horror and doubt distract his troubled thoughts, and from the bottom stir the hell within him. For within him hell he brings, and around him, nor from hell one step, no more than from himself, can flee by changing place. Now conscience wakes despair that slept, wakes the bitter memory of what he was, what is, and what must be worse. Of worse deeds worse sufferings must come. Sometimes towards Eden, now pleasant in his view lay sad, his grieved look he fixes. Sometimes towards heaven and the fully blazing sun, now high in its peak in the sky. Then, thinking deeply, he began with sighs. O you, crowned with surpassing glory, looking from your sole dominion like the God of this new world, at whose sight all the stars hide their diminished heads, I call to you, but with no friendly voice, and add your name, O sun, to tell you how I hate your beams, that remind me from what state I fell, once glorious above your sphere, until pride and ambition threw me down, warring in heaven against heaven's matchless king. Ah, why? He deserved no such return from me, whom he created what I was in that bright eminence, and with his goodness reproached no one, nor was his service hard. What could be easier than to give him praise, the easiest recompense, and pay him thanks, how due? Yet all his goodness proved ill in me, and only caused malice. Lifted up so high, I disdained subjection, and thought one step higher would set me highest, and in a moment clear the immense debt of endless gratitude, so burdensome, always paying, always owing, forgetful of what I still received from him, and did not understand that a grateful mind by owing owes not, but still pays, at once indebted and discharged. What burden then? Oh, had his powerful destiny ordained me some inferior angel, I would have stood happy, No unbounded hope would have raised ambition. Yet why not? Some other power as great might have aspired, and me, though mean, drawn to his part. But other powers as great did not fall, but stand unshaken, from within or from without, to all temptations armed. Did you have the same free will and power to stand? You did. Whom then, or what, do you accuse, but heaven's free love dealt equally to all? Be then his love cursed, since, love or hate, to me it deals eternal woe. No, cursed be you, since against his will freely chose what it now so justly rues. Me miserable! Which way shall I fly infinite wrath and infinite despair? Which way I fly is hell, I am hell, and in the lowest deep, a lower deep still threatening to devour me opens wide, to which the hell I suffer seems a heaven. Oh, then, at last relent. Is there no place left for repentance, none for pardon left? None left but by submission, and that word disdain forbids me, and my dread of shame among the spirits beneath, whom I seduced with other promises and boasts than to submit, boasting I could subdue the omnipotent. Alas! They little know how dearly I endure that boast so vain, under what torments inwardly I groan. While they adore me on the throne of hell, with diadem and scepter high advanced, the lower I fall, only supreme in misery, such joy ambition finds. But say I could repent, and obtain by act of grace my former state, how soon would height recall high thoughts, how soon unsay what feigned submission swore. Ease would recant vows made in pain, as violent and void, for true reconcilement can never grow where wounds of deadly hate have pierced so deep, which would but lead me to a worse relapse and heavier fall. So I would purchase dear short intermission, bought with double pain. This knows my punisher, therefore as far from granting, as I am from begging peace. All hope excluded thus, behold, instead of us, outcast, exiled, his new delight, mankind created, and for him this world. So farewell hope, and with hope farewell fear, farewell remorse. All good to me is lost, evil, be thou my good. By you at least divided empire with heaven's king I hold, by you, and more than half perhaps will reign, as man soon and this new world shall know. Thus while he spoke, each passion dimmed his face, changing thrice to pale, anger, envy, and despair, which marred his borrowed appearance, and betrayed him as a counterfeit, if any I saw, for heavenly minds are ever clear of such foul distempers. Aware of this, he soon smoothed each disturbance with outward calm, a master of fraud, and was the first to practice falsehood under a saintly appearance, concealing deep malice, couched with revenge. Yet he had not practiced enough to deceive Uriel, once warned, whose eye pursued him down the way he went, and on the Assyrian mount saw him disfigured, more than could befall a spirit of happy sort. His fierce gestures and mad demeanor he marked, alone, as he supposed, unobserved, unseen. So he continues, and comes to the border of Eden, where the delicious paradise, now nearer, crowns with its green enclosure, like a rural mound, the flat top of a steep wilderness, whose hairy sides with thicket overgrown, grotesque and wild, denied access, and overhead grew an insurmountable height of loftiest shade, cedar, pine, fir, and branching palm, a sylvan scene, and, as the ranks ascend shade above shade, a woody theatre of stateliest view. Yet higher than their tops the verdant wall of paradise rose, which to our general ancestor gave a large view into his nether empire neighboring around. And higher than that wall, a circling row of goodliest trees, loaded with fairest fruit, blossoms and fruits of golden hue at once, appeared, with gay enameled colors mixed, on which the sun gladly impressed his beams more than on a fair evening cloud or humid bough, when God has showered the earth. So lovely seemed that landscape. And now purer air meets his approach, and inspires springtime delight and joy in his heart, able to drive all sadness but despair. Now gentle breezes, fanning their fragrant wings, spread native perfumes, and whisper where they stole those balmy spoils. As when to those who sail beyond the Cape of Good Hope, and now are past Mozambique, off at sea, northeast winds blow Sabaean odors from the spicy shore of Araby the blessed. Pleased with such delay they slack their course, and for many leagues cheered with the grateful smell, old ocean smiles. So entertained those fragrant sweets the fiend who came to harm them, though he was better pleased than Asmodeus with the fishy fume that drove him, though in love, from the spouse of Tobit's son, and with a vengeance sent from Media post to Egypt, they're fast bound. Now to the ascent of that steep savage hill Satan journeyed on, pensive and slow, but found no further way. So thickly entwined, like one continuous barrier, the undergrowth of shrubs and tangling bushes had confused all paths of man or beast that passed that way. There was only one gate, and that looked east on the other side, which when the arch-felon saw, he disdained the proper entrance, and in contempt, with one slight bound, high overleaped all bounds of hill or highest wall, and landed inside on his feet. As when a prowling wolf, driven by hunger to seek new haunts for prey, watches where shepherds pen their flocks at evening, in secure hurdles amid the field, leaps over the fence with ease into the fold, or as a thief, intent on unhoarding the cash of some rich burgher, whose strong doors, cross-barred and bolted fast, fear no assault, climbs in through the window, or over the tiles, so climbed this first grand thief into God's fold. So since into his church lewd hirelings climb. From there, he flew up and sat on the tree of life, the middle tree and highest that grew there, sat like a cormorant, yet did not regain true life but sat devising death for those who lived, nor thought on the virtue of that life-giving plant, but only used it for prospect, what, if used well, had been the pledge of immortality. So little knows anyone but God alone to value right the good before him, but perverts the best things to the worst abuse, or to their meanest use. Beneath him, with new wonder, he now views, exposed to all delight of human senses, in a narrow space nature's whole wealth, yes, more, a heaven on earth. For blissful paradise was God's garden, planted by him in the east of Eden. Eden stretched her line from Orion eastward to the royal towers of great Seleucia, built by Greek kings, or where the sons of Eden long before dwelt in Telassar. In this pleasant soil God ordained his far more pleasant garden. Out of the fertile ground he caused to grow all trees of noblest kind for sight, smell, taste, and in the middle stood the tree of life, high eminent, blooming ambrosial fruit of vegetable gold, and next to life, our death, the tree of knowledge, grew nearby, knowledge of good bought dearly by knowing ill. Southward through Eden went a large river, not changing course, but through the shaggy hill passed underneath engulfed, for God had thrown that mountain as his garden mold, high raised upon the rapid current, which, through veins of porous earth, drawn up with kindly thirst, rose as a fresh fountain, and with many a rill watered the garden. Then united fell down the steep glade and met the nether flood, which from his dark passage now appears, and now, divided into 4 main streams, runs diversely, wandering many famous realms and countries, whereof here needs no account, but rather to tell how, if art could tell, from that sapphire fount the crisp brooks, rolling on pearl and gold sands, with winding paths under hanging shades ran nectar, visiting each plant, and fed flowers worthy of paradise, which not art embeds in curious knots, but nature poured forth profusely on hill, dale, and plain, both where the morning sun first warmly shone on the open field, and where the unpierced shade darkened the noontide bowers. Thus was this place, a happy rural seat of various views, groves whose rich trees wept odorous gums and balm, others whose fruit, burnished with golden rind, hung amiable, Hesperian fables true, if true, here only, and delicious in taste. Between them, lawns or level downs, and flocks grazing the tender herb, were interposed, or palmy hillocks, or the flowery lap of some irrigated valley spread her store, flowers of all hues, and without thorns the rose. On another side, shaded groves and caves of cool retreat, over which the mantling vine lays forth her purple grape, and gently creeps luxuriantly. Meanwhile murmuring waters fall down the slope hills dispersed, or into a lake, that to the fringed bank with myrtle crowned holds her crystal mirror, unite their streams. The birds apply their choir, springtime airs, breathing the smell of field and grove, attune the trembling leaves, while universal Pan, joined with the graces and the hours in dance, leads on the eternal spring. Not that fair field of Enna, where Proserpine gathering flowers, herself a fairer flower, by gloomy Dis was gathered, which cost Ceres all that pain to seek her through the world, nor that sweet grove of Daphne by Orontes, and the inspired Castalian spring, could compete with this paradise of Eden, nor that Nicean isle, encircled with the river Triton, where old Cham, whom Gentiles call Ammon and Libyan Jove, hid Amalthea. And her florid son, young Bacchus, from his stepmother Rhea's eye, Nor. Where Abyssinian kings guard their issue, Mount Amara, though some suppose this true paradise, under the Ethiopian line by the head of the Nile, enclosed with shining rock, a whole day's journey high, but far remote from this Assyrian garden, where the fiend saw all delights unappreciated, all kinds of living creatures, new to sight and strange. Two of far nobler shape, erect and tall, godlike erect, clothed with native honor, in naked majesty seemed lords of all, and seemed worthy, for in their looks divine the image of their glorious Maker shone, truth, wisdom, sanctity severe and pure, severe, but placed in true filial freedom, from which true authority in men comes, though both not equal, as their sex not equal seemed, for contemplation and valor he was formed. For softness and sweet attractive grace she was formed, he for God. Only she for God in him. His fair large forehead and sublime eye declared absolute rule, and hyacinthine locks clustered manly round his parted forelock, but did not fall beneath his broad shoulders. She, like a veil down to her slender waist, wore her unadorned golden tresses disheveled, but waved in playful ringlets, like the vine curls her tendrils, which implied subjection, but required gentle sway, and by her yielded, best received by him. Yielded with coy submission, modest pride, and sweet, reluctant, amorous delay. Nor were those mysterious parts then concealed. There was no guilty shame. Dishonest shame of nature's works, honor dishonorable, sin-bred, how you have troubled all mankind with mere shows of seeming purity, and banished from man's life his happiest life, simplicity and spotless innocence. So they passed naked on, not avoiding the sight of God or angel, for they thought no ill. So hand in hand they passed, the loveliest pair that ever since met in love's embraces. Adam the goodliest man of men since born his sons, and Eve the fairest of her daughters. Under a tuft of shade on a green whispering softly by a fresh fountain side, they sat down, and after no more toil of their sweet gardening labor than sufficed to recommend cool zephyr, and make ease more easy, wholesome thirst and appetite more grateful, they fell to their supper fruits, nectarine fruits, which the compliant boughs yielded them, as they sat reclined on the soft downy bank adorned with flowers. They chewed the savory pulp, and in the rind, still as they thirsted, scooped the brimming stream, nor were gentle purposes, nor endearing smiles lacking, nor youthful dalliance, as fits a fair couple linked in a happy marriage, alone as they were. Around them frisking played all the beasts of the earth, since wild, and all creatures of chase in wood or wilderness, forest or den. The lion ramped, playing, and in his paw dandled the kid. Bears, tigers, ounces, leopards gamboled before them. The unwieldy elephant, to amuse them, used all his might, and wreathed his flexible trunk. Close by, the sly serpent, insinuating, wove with Gordian twine his braided tail, giving proof of his fatal guile unnoticed. Others on the grass lay, and now filled with pasture, gazing sat, or chewed their cud for bedward. For the sun, declining, was now hastening with swift course to the ocean isles, and in the rising scale of heaven the stars that usher evening rose, when Satan, still gazing as he first stood, finally recovered speech, speaking sadly. "O hell! What do my eyes see with grief? Into our place of bliss thus high advanced creatures of a different kind, earth-born perhaps, not spirits, yet little inferior to heavenly spirits bright, whom my thoughts pursue with wonder, and could love, so vividly shines in them divine resemblance, and such grace the hand that formed them poured on their shape. Ah, gentle pair, you little think how near your change approaches, when all these delights will vanish, and deliver you to woe, more woe, the more your taste now is of joy, happy, but so happy ill secured long to continue, and this high seat, your heaven, poorly fenced to keep out such a foe as now has entered, yet no intended foe to you, whom I could pity thus forlorn, though I am unpitied. Alliance with you I seek, and mutual friendship, so close, that I must dwell with you, or you with me. From now on my dwelling, perhaps, may not please like this fair paradise your senses, yet accept your Maker's work. He gave it to me, which I freely give to you. Hell shall open, to entertain you too, her widest gates, and send forth all her kings. There will be room, not like these narrow limits, to receive your numerous offspring. If no better place, thank him who forces me into this revenge on you who wrong me not, for him who wronged me. And should I at your harmless innocence melt, as I do, yet public reason just, honor and empire with revenge enlarged by conquering this new world, compels me now to do what else, though damned, I should abhor. So spoke the fiend, and with necessity, the tyrant's excuse, justified his devilish deeds. Then from his lofty stand on that high tree he alights among the playful herd of those four-footed kinds, becoming now one, now another, as their shape best served his end to view his prey closer, and unseen to learn more about their state by marked words or actions. Around them, now he stalks as a lion with fiery glare, then as a tiger, who by chance has seen in some enclosure two gentle fawns at play, immediately crouches close, then, rising, often changes his crouching watch, as one who chose his ground, from where he might best rush to seize them both, gripped in each paw, when Adam, first of men, to first of women, Eve, thus moving speech, turned himself all ear to hear her new words flow. Sole partner and sole part of all these joys, dearer to me than all, surely the power that made us, and for us this ample world, is infinitely good, and of his good as liberal and free as infinite, that raised us from the dust, and placed us here in all this happiness, who at his hand have merited nothing, nor can perform anything he needs, he who requires from us no other service than to keep this one, this easy charge. Of all the trees in paradise that bear delicious fruit so varied, not to taste that one tree of knowledge, planted by the tree of life. So near grows death to life, whatever death is, some dreadful thing no doubt, for well you know God has pronounced it death to taste that tree, the only sign of our obedience left among so many signs of power and rule conferred upon us, and dominion given over all other creatures that possess earth, air, and sea. Then let us not think hard of one easy prohibition, who enjoy free leave so large to all things else, and choice unlimited of manifold delights. But let us ever praise him, and extol his bounty, following our delightful task, to prune these growing plants, and tend these flowers, which, even if toilsome, yet with you is sweet. To whom Eve replied, O you for whom and from whom I was formed, flesh of your flesh, and without whom I have no purpose, my guide and head. What you have said is just and right. For we indeed owe all praises to him, and daily thanks. I especially, who enjoy so much the happier lot, enjoying you preeminent by so much, while you can find no equal companion for yourself. I often remember that day, when from sleep I first awoke, and found myself lying under a shade on flowers, wondering where and what I was, how I came there, and why. Not far from there a murmuring sound of waters came from a cave, and spread into a liquid plain, then stood unmoved, pure as the expanse of heaven. I went there with unexperienced thought, and laid me down on the green bank, to look into the clear smooth lake, that seemed to me another sky. As I bent down to look, just opposite a shape within the watery gleam appeared, bending to look at me. I started back, it started back. But pleased, I soon returned, pleased it returned as soon with answering looks of sympathy and love. There I had fixed my eyes until now, and pined with vain desire, had not a voice thus warned me, what you see, what there you see, fair creature, is yourself. With you it came and goes, but follow me, and I will bring you where no shadow stays your coming, and your soft embraces, he whose image you are, him you shall enjoy inseparably yours, to him you shall bear multitudes like yourself, and thus be called mother of the human race. What could I do but follow immediately, invisibly led? Until I saw you, fair indeed and tall, under a plane tree, yet I thought you less fair, less softly winning, less amiably mild, than that smooth watery image. I turned back, you, following, cried aloud, return, fair Eve, whom are you fleeing? Of him you are, his flesh, his bone. To give you being I lent out of my side to you, nearest my heart, substantial life, to have you by my side henceforth as an individual dear solace, part of my soul, I seek you, and claim you as my other half. With that your gentle hand seized mine, I yielded, and from that time I see how beauty is excelled by manly grace and wisdom, which alone is truly fair. So spoke our General Mother, and with eyes of conjugal attraction unrebuked, and meek surrender, half embracing leaned on our first father, half her swelling breast naked met his, hidden under the flowing gold of her loose hair. He, in delight of both her beauty and submissive charms, smiled with superior love, as Jupiter on Juno smiles when he impregnates the clouds that shed May flowers, and pressed her matronly lip with pure kisses. The devil turned aside in envy, yet with a jealous, malicious leer eyed them askance, and to himself thus complained, "How hateful, how tormenting is this sight! These two, in paradise, in each other's arms, the happier Eden, will enjoy their fill of bliss upon bliss, while I am thrust to hell, where there is neither joy nor love, but fierce desire, among our other torments, not the least, still unfulfilled, with the pain of longing. Yet let me not forget what I have learned from their own mouths. Not all is theirs, it seems. There stands one fatal tree, called the tree of knowledge, forbidden for them to taste. Knowledge forbidden? Suspicious, unreasonable. Why should their Lord envy them that? Can it be a sin to know? Can it be death? And do they only stand by ignorance? Is that their happy state, the proof of their obedience and their faith? O fair foundation laid for their ruin! From this, I will excite their minds with more desire to know, and to reject envious commands, invented to keep them low, whom knowledge might exalt equal with gods. Aspiring to be such, they will taste and die. What more likely can happen? But first with a careful search I must walk around this garden, and leave no corner unspied. By chance, I may meet some wandering spirit of heaven, by a fountain side, or in thick shade retired, from whom to draw what more I could learn. Lie while you may, happy pair, enjoy, until I return, short pleasures, for long woes are to come. So saying, he turned his proud steps scornfully, but with sly caution, and began to roam through wood, waste, over hill, over dale. Meanwhile, in the furthest distance, where heaven meets earth and ocean, the setting sun slowly descended, and directly against the eastern gate of paradise leveled his evening rays. It was a rock of alabaster, piled up to the clouds, visible from afar, winding with one ascent accessible from earth, one high entrance. The rest was a craggy cliff, that overhung as it rose, impossible to climb. Between these rocky pillars Gabriel sat, chief of the angelic guards, awaiting night. Around him, the unarmed youth of heaven exercised in heroic games, but nearby celestial armor, shields, helms, and spears hung high, flaming with diamond and gold. There came Uriel, gliding through the evening on a sunbeam, swift as a shooting star in autumn crosses the night, when vapors fired impress the air, and show the mariner from what point of his compass to beware of impetuous winds. He thus began in haste. Gabriel, to you your course by lot has given charge and strict watch, so that no evil thing approaches or enters this happy place. Today at noon, a spirit came to my sphere zealous, it seemed, to know more of the Almighty's works, and chiefly man, God's latest image. I observed his way, moving quickly, and marked his airy gait. But on the mount that lies north of Eden, where he first landed, I soon discerned his looks alien from heaven, obscured with foul passions. My eye pursued him still, but under shade I lost sight of him. One of the banished crew, I fear, has ventured from the deep, to raise new troubles. Your duty is to find him. To whom the winged warrior thus replied, Uriel, no wonder if your perfect sight, amid the sun's bright circle where you sit, sees far and wide. No one passes this gate without being known from heaven, and since noon, no creature has passed. If a spirit of another kind, so determined, has overleaped these earthly bounds on purpose, you know it is hard to exclude a spiritual substance with a physical barrier. But if within the circuit of these walks, in any shape, he lurks of whom you speak, by tomorrow dawn I shall know. So he promised, and Uriel returned to his duty on that bright beam, whose point now raised carried him downward to the sun, now set beneath the Azores, whether the prime orb, incredibly swift, had rolled there daily, or this less speedy earth, by shorter flight to the east, had left him there, adorning with reflected purple and gold the clouds that attend his western throne. Now came still evening on, and twilight gray had in her sober attire clad all things. Silence accompanied. For beast and bird, they to their grassy couch, bees to their nests, were gone, all but the wakeful nightingale. She all night long sang her amorous song, silence was pleased. Now the firmament glowed with living sapphires, Hesperus, that led the starry host, shone brightest, till the moon, rising in clouded majesty, at length as the apparent queen, unveiled her peerless light, and threw her silver mantle over the dark, when Adam said to Eve, "Fair consort, the hour of night, and all things now retired to rest, remind us of similar repose, since God has set labor and rest, as day and night, for men in succession, and the timely dew of sleep, now falling with soft, slumberous weight, inclines our eyelids. Other creatures all day long roam idle, unemployed, and need less rest. Man has his daily work of body or mind appointed, which declares his dignity, and heaven's regard for all his ways, while other animals on active range, and of their doings, God takes no account. Tomorrow, before fresh morning streaks the east with the first approach of light, we must rise, and at our pleasant labor, to reform those flowery arbors, those green alleys, our noon walk, with overgrown branches, that mock our scant care, and require more hands than ours to trim their wild growth. Those blossoms also, and those dripping gums, that lie scattered, unsightly and rough, need clearing, if we mean to tread with ease. Meanwhile, as nature wills, night bids us rest." To whom Eve, adorned with perfect beauty, replied, "My author and disposer, what you bid I obey without argument. So God ordains, God is your law, you are mine. To know no more is woman's happiest knowledge and her praise. With you conversing, I forget all time, all seasons and their change, all please alike. Sweet is the breath of morning, her rising sweet, with the charm of earliest birds. Pleasant the sun, when first on this delightful land he spreads his eastern beams, on herb, tree, fruit, and flower, glistening with dew. Fragrant the fertile earth after soft showers, and sweet the coming on of mild, grateful evening. Then silent night, with this her solemn bird, and this fair moon, and these the gems of heaven, her starry train. But neither the breath of morning, when she ascends with the charm of earliest birds, nor the rising sun on this delightful land, nor herb, fruit, flower, glistening with dew, nor fragrance after showers, nor mild, grateful evening, nor silent night, with this her solemn bird, nor walk by moon, or glittering starlight, is sweet without you. But why do these shine all night long? For whom this glorious sight, when sleep has closed all eyes?" To whom our general ancestor replied, "Daughter of God and man, accomplished Eve, those lights have their course to finish round the earth by tomorrow evening, and from land to land in order, though to nations yet unborn, ministering prepared light, they set and rise, lest total darkness by night should regain her old possession, and extinguish life in nature and all things, which these soft fires not only enlighten, but with kindly heat of various influence warm and foster, temper or nourish, or in part shed down their stellar virtue on all kinds that grow on earth, making them better able to receive perfection from the sun's more potent ray. These then, though unseen in the deep of night, shine not in vain. Nor think, though men were none, that heaven would lack spectators, God lack praise. Millions of spiritual creatures walk the earth unseen, both when we wake and when we sleep. All these with ceaseless praise behold his works, both day and night. How often, from the steep of echoing hill or thicket, have we heard celestial voices to the midnight air, solo, or responding each to other's note, singing their great Creator. Often in bands while they keep watch, or nightly rounding walk, with heavenly touch of instrumental sounds in full harmonic number joined, their songs divide the night, and lift our thoughts to heaven. Thus talking, hand in hand alone, they passed on to their blissful bower. It was a place chosen by the sovereign planter, when he framed all things for man's delightful use. The roof of thickest cover was in woven shade, laurel and myrtle, and what higher grew a firm and fragrant leaf, on either side acanthus, and each odorous bushy shrub, fenced up the verdant wall, each beautiful flower, iris of all hues, roses, and jasmine, reared high their flourished heads between, and worked a mosaic, underfoot the violet, crocus, and hyacinth, with rich inlay embroidered the ground, more colored than with stone of the costliest emblem. No other creature here, beast, bird, insect, or worm, dared enter, such was their awe of man. In a shadier bower more sacred and secluded, though only imagined, Pan or Sylvanus never slept, nor nymph nor faunus haunted. Here, in a close recess, with flowers, garlands, and sweet-smelling herbs, Eve first decked her nuptial bed, and heavenly choirs sang the wedding hymn, the day the genial angel brought her to our Father, in naked beauty more adorned, more lovely, than Pandora, whom the gods endowed with all their gifts. And oh, too similar in sad event, when, brought by Hermes to the unwiser son of Japhet, she ensnared mankind with her fair looks, to be avenged on him who had stolen Jove's authentic fire. Thus at their shady lodge arrived, both stood, both turned, and under the open sky adored the God who made both sky, air, earth, and heaven, which they beheld, the moon's resplendent globe, and starry pole. You also made the night, omnipotent maker, and you made the day, which we, in our appointed work employed, have finished, happy in our mutual help and mutual love, the crown of all our bliss ordained by you, and this delicious place. For us too large, where your abundance needs partakers, and falls uncropped to the ground. But you have promised from us to a race to fill the earth, who shall with us extol your infinite goodness, both when we wake, and when we seek, as now, your gift of sleep. This said unanimously, and observing no other rites but pure adoration, which God likes best, into their inmost bower they went, and relieved of the troublesome disguises we wear, they were laid side by side, nor turned, I believe, Adam from his fair spouse, nor did Eve refuse the mysterious rites of marital love, whatever hypocrites austerely talk of purity, and place, and innocence, defaming as impure what God declares pure, and commands to some, leaves free to all. Our Maker commands increase, who bids abstain but our destroyer, foe to God and man. Hail, wedded love, mysterious law, true source of human offspring, sole propriety in paradise of all things common otherwise. By you, adulterous lust was driven from men among the bestial herds to range. By you, founded in reason, loyal, just, and pure, dear relations, and all the charities of father, son, and brother, were first known. Far be it that I should write you as sin or blame, or think you unbefitting the holiest place, perpetual fountain of domestic sweetness, whose bed is undefiled and chaste pronounced, present or past, as saints and patriarchs used. Here love employs his golden shafts, here lights his constant lamp, and waves his purple wings, reigns here and revels, not in the bought smile of harlots, loveless, joyless, unendeared, casual fruition, nor in courtly amours, mixed dance, or wanton mask, or midnight ball, or serenade, which the starved lover sings to his proud fair, best repaid with disdain. These, lulled by nightingales, slept embracing, and on their naked limbs the flowery roof showered roses, which the morning repaired. Sleep on, blessed pair! And oh, yet happiest, if you seek no happier state, and know to know no more. Now had night measured with her shadowy cone halfway up this vast sublunar vault, and from their ivory port the cherubim forth issuing, at the accustomed hour, stood armed for their night watches in warlike parade, when Gabriel spoke to his next in power, Uzziel, draw off half of these, and patrol the south with strictest watch, the others wheel to the north, our circuit meets full west. Like flames they part, half wheeling to the shield, half to the spear. From these, he called 2 strong and subtle spirits that stood near him, and gave them this charge, Ithuriel and Zephin, with winged speed surge through this garden, leave no nook unsearched, but chiefly where those 2 fair creatures lodge, now likely asleep, secure from harm. This evening from the sun's decline arrived one who tells of some infernal spirit seen heading this way, who could have thought, escaped the bars of hell, on some bad errand, no doubt, such, wherever you find, seize fast, and bring here. So saying, he led his radiant files, dazzling the moon, these directed to the bower in search of whom they sought. There they found him squat like a toad, close at Eve's ear, trying by his devilish art to reach the organs of her imagination, and with them forge illusions as he wished, phantasms and dreams. Or if, by inspiring venom, he might taint the animal spirits, that arise from pure blood like gentle breaths from pure rivers, and thus raise at least disturbed, discontented thoughts, vain hopes, vain aims, inordinate desires, blown up with high conceits engendering pride. Him thus intent, Ithuriel with his spear touched lightly, for no falsehood can endure the touch of celestial temper, but returns by force to its own likeness. Up he starts, discovered and surprised. As when a spark lights on a heap of nitrous powder, laid fit for the barrel, some magazine to store against a rumored war, the smutty grain, with sudden blaze diffused, inflames the air, so started up in his own shape the fiend. Those two fair angels stepped back, half amazed so suddenly to behold the grisly king. Yet thus, unmoved with fear, they soon addressed him. Which of those rebel spirits condemned to hell are you, escaped your prison? And transformed, why did you sit like an enemy in wait, here watching at the head of these who sleep? Do you not know, then, said Satan, filled with scorn, do you not know me? You knew me once no equal for you, sitting there where you dared not soar. Not to know me means you are unknown yourselves, the lowest of your group. Or if you know, why do you ask, and superfluously begin your message, likely to end just as in vain? To whom Zephan, answering scorn with scorn, do not think, rebellious spirit, your shape the same, or your undiminished brightness, to be known as when you stood in heaven upright and pure. That glory then, when you were no longer good, departed from you, and you now resemble your sin and place of doom, obscure and foul. But come, for you, be sure, shall give account to him who sent us, whose duty is to keep this place inviolable, and these from harm. So spoke the cherub, and his grave rebuke, severe in youthful beauty, added invincible grace. The devil stood abashed, and felt how awe-inspiring goodness is, and saw how lovely virtue in her shape is, saw, and pined his loss, but chiefly to find his luster visibly impaired, yet seemed undaunted. If I must contend, said he, best with the best, the sender, not the sent, or all at once, more glory will be won, or less be lost. Your fear, said Zephan boldly, will save us the trial of what the least can do single against you, wicked, and therefore weak. The fiend did not reply, overcome with rage, but like a proud steed reined, went on haughtily, champing his iron curb. To strive or fly he held it vain, awe from above had quelled his heart, not otherwise dismayed. Now they drew near the western point, where those half-rounding guards just met, and stood in a joined squadron, awaiting the next command. To whom their chief, Gabriel, from the front called aloud, O friends, I hear the tread of nimble feet hastening this way, and now by glimpse discern Ithuriel and Zephan through the shade, and with them comes a third of regal port, but faded splendor one, who by his gait and fierce demeanor seems the prince of hell, not likely to part from here without contest. Stand firm, for defiance glares in his look. He had scarcely ended, when those two approached, and briefly related whom they brought, where found, how busy, in what form and posture crouched. To whom, with stern regard, Gabriel thus spoke, Why have you, Satan, broken the bounds prescribed to your transgressions, and disturbed the charge of others, who do not approve to transgress by your example, but have power and right to question your bold entrance into this place? Do you employ this dark conspiracy to bring heaven into danger, our great forbidden? What did you mean by this treacherous guise, you, a stranger, with curious art to tread in our pure soil? Say, if anything in your desires still glows of glory, anything of good, if anything of ambition or delusive hope still lingers in your breast, or if you fear the angry victor, heaven's almighty king. Whereupon Lucifer replied in a full voice, Then, when I am your captive, talk of chains, proud boundary-keeping cherub. But before then expect to feel a far heavier load from my prevailing arm, though heaven's king ride on your wings, and you with your peers, used to the yoke, draw his triumphant wheels and progress through the star-paved road of heaven. While he spoke, the bright angelic squadron turned fiery red, sharpening their phalanx into curved horns, and began to hem him round with ported spears, as thick as when a field of ripe Ceres waving bends her bearded grove of ears, whichever way the wind sways them. The careful plowman doubts lest on the threshing floor his hopeful sheaves prove chaff. On the other side, Satan, alarmed, collecting all his might, stood dilated, like Tenerife or Atlas, unmoved. His stature reached the sky, and on his crest sat plumed horror, Nor was he lacking in his grasp what seemed both spear and shield. Now dreadful deeds might have ensued, nor only paradise, in this commotion, but the starry cope of heaven perhaps, or all the elements at least would have gone to rack. Disturbed and torn with violence of this conflict, had not soon the Eternal to prevent such horrid fray, hung forth in heaven his golden scales, still seen between Astrea and the Scorpion sign, wherein he weighed all things created first, the pendulous round earth with balanced air and counterpoise. Now he ponders all events, battles and realms. In these he put two weights, the result of parting and of fight. The latter quickly flew up, and kicked the beam, which Gabriel, seeing, thus addressed the fiend. Say, by this warning, how you would choose. By being at the worst, that force might determine the winner, or the importance weighed with justice to get from heaven a place as blessed, or if to be with war raised, with success, to turn on your brethren in those regions torn in fire. Satan, I know your strength, and you know mine. Either is our own, but given, what folly then to boast what arms can do? Since yours no more than heaven permits, nor mine, though doubled now to trample you as mire. For proof, look up, and read your fate in that celestial sign, where you are weighed, and shown how light, how weak, if you resist. The fiend looked up, and knew his mounted scale aloft, no more, but fled murmuring, and with him fled the shades of night.